Hey, it's Ryan from Durability Fitness Training, and today I want to talk a little bit about tendonitis or tendinopathy. Often those two terms get used interchangeably, which is fine, but essentially, from my understanding, tendonitis is more describing the acute inflammation that happens right after something, whereas tendinopathy is more describing a long-term issue with tendonitis or tendon inflammation or wear, tear, damage, things like that. As somebody that has struggled with tendonitis and tendinopathy throughout my entire life, I've learned quite a few ways of dealing with it. And disclaimer here, I'll be speaking from my own personal experience. I'm not a physiotherapist. I'm not qualified to identify tendonitis in other people or to give qualified advice. So, again, this is just what has worked for me. But I will say this as somebody who's been through physiotherapy a number of times and done a fair amount of research trying to get through this myself, I would say that everything I'm going to describe today is probably the most common advice that you will see. But I'd like to amalgamate it into one video here and just sort of share my experience. So, as an athlete for many years, the first tendonitis issues I really experienced were in skateboarding. Achilles tendonitis has put me out of skateboarding on a few occasions, and I've had to overcome it. But it has now, in my 50s, developed into what's called a Haglund's deformity, which is a calcification, almost like a heel spur or bone spur, at the base of the Achilles tendon, and it did put me out of running. And at this point, the only intervention is surgery if I want to run again. It doesn't seem to bother me in a lot of other activities I do. Walking doesn't bother me, cycling, things like that. Even when I go skateboarding now, I have about maybe an hour of skateboarding time before that will start to cause an issue, and then I'll be limping for several days. So it's something I've had to deal with. For many years, I've dealt with lateral and medial epicondylitis, which is essentially golfer's elbow and tennis elbow, depending on which side of your arm it's on. Bicep tendonitis I've been dealing with lately. But the worst of all the tendonitis or tendinopathy issues that I've dealt with was knee tendonitis. Basically patellar or quadricep tendonitis right here at the top of the kneecap going into the bottom of the thigh here. It was so bad that it put me out of skateboarding for a year. I actually did a whole series on my skateboarding YouTube channel on what I had to go through to overcome the knee tendonitis and get back into skateboarding. And it was a long road, and there was quite a period of time when I thought that all sports were gone for me because of this issue. So again, I'm just speaking from my experience, but I will say I have quite a wealth and depth of experience dealing with tendinopathy just because I'm so prone to it, and it's been a major part of my life in sports. So if you've had an issue like tendonitis chronically, you'll find that you tend to gather up a lot of things while you're learning to deal with these issues. And that's basically what I have here is my collection of items that I want to talk about today and go over some of the ways that I've gotten through this. But essentially, it really comes down to just a very few set of things. On the day-to-day sort of management side, I tend to do a lot of things like foam rolling, and icing. Those are the two major things that have helped me the most in terms of just stuff I can do on my own. Depending on where the issue is, rolling of some kind can be difficult, but we'll talk about that. Icing, these gel packs are fantastic, and I have a number of them in the freezer because I could be going through like 3 or 4 times of icing in a day. I've also found for things like those are great for knees when you can wrap them easily yourself, but things like elbows can be hard to wrap the ice pack around. So I actually have specific like arm sleeves and even a shoulder one as well that goes over. So I find a variety of these have helped a lot. And if I get a tendonitis issue that's in a hard place to reach, I'll usually buy a specific ice pack for that, knowing that I'll be using it for some period of time. Rolling of some kind, so all kinds of foam rollers out there. This one stays down here in the gym, and it's nice and wide, so great to use if I want to throw it on my back or something. And this one actually sits up in the bedroom upstairs, so I can use this. I've tried a bunch of them, and I haven't really noticed that any of these ridged patterns are noticeable or make a huge difference. They can be, I guess, if you're working like side to side friction, but I haven't noticed a big difference in using this one versus this one with no sort of ridges or anything on it. I don't know how much of a gimmick that is, and plus these ones are fairly soft foam, so I don't know how much you would notice something like that. But the foam rollers are great. Also, things like the classic tiger's tail, right? Like a handheld foam roller that you can use. Great. These ones are nice because they are very firm, so I find you can really get in to the tissue deep. If your foam roller is too soft, then one of the issues is the foam roller absorbs a lot of that pressure, I find, and you can't quite get as deep into the tissue as you would like. So variety of foam rollers. Also for elbow tendonitis, I found this one was great. These ones you can freeze so that they're also cold therapy. I didn't find that helped a lot to freeze, but the reason I got this one was just because of the handle, and then I just found it easier because one of these can be very difficult to sort of roll on yourself. Actually, what I found the best, though, even better than this unit here, was one of these. So I bought this 2-pack of these, what they call like a lacrosse ball style, right, for trigger point stuff. This is great. So I use this lying down on my yoga mat if I want to put it under my shoulder, let's say, and get to a spot in my back that's tricky to get to. So that's really great to kind of roll around on and roll something out. This one I found has been really nice to throw on, like I tend to do it on the kitchen counter because of the height, and it just works well. And I find that I can put this right into the spot that I need and then roll into it. I just find that the 2-ball system here, the peanut as they call it, it just tracks better. And I can get 2 separate pressure points out of this. It can be done with this guy, but it can be a little difficult to keep it tracking in the right spot. So I've just found for issues with my forearms, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, that this has been a much better option. The other thing I've tried are massage guns. These I find are great for loosening muscles, things like that. They're harder, I find, to actually, like, the vibration I don't find does a lot. If you're using it with sort of a driving motion and going up and down the tender area, I find that kind of helps. So these are nice too. Also, it can be used one-handed, so you can kind of get a better grip on it. I do like this guy. I find it great for like loosening up some tight muscles or kind of relieving DOMs, that muscle soreness you get after a good workout in the gym. So I absolutely love this guy. I did use it a lot with Achilles tendonitis, but more so at the base of my calf to sort of loosen up that area. But yeah, I like having these around. Sometimes they just feel nice, and maybe they're not doing anything to help the healing as much as it just gives you some pain relief, and I think that's great. On that note, one other thing I've found that gives a lot of pain relief has been TENS machine. I haven't found in my experience that it's really helped to speed up healing as much, but I have found that the TENS machine can give some pain relief, and I've used it quite a bit. I actually kind of like the feeling of a TENS machine at a moderate level. So I found the TENS machine to be pretty handy, but I like having them. And again, they're not too expensive. I think this one was about $30. So none of these tools, except for one of them, was overly expensive, and we'll talk about that next. Okay, the last big thing that's really made a difference for me in tendinopathy are 2 things. Number one is shockwave. These are just basically shock pulses that come from a very specific machine. And the theory, I've done a bunch of research into it, and the research reviews are mixed, but I personally found it helped a lot. So it's supposed to go in with these like ultrasonic pulses and break up scar tissue, help promote blood flow, collagen healing, all that sort of stuff. So I have found, to be honest, in the severe cases I've had, when I've done 4 or 5 sessions of shockwave therapy, I've found that made pretty much the biggest difference in my healing. So I'm definitely a fan of it. Whether or not the evidence supports it, I've just found personally, anecdotally, that it's made a huge difference. But shockwave can be expensive. As somebody who's run their own business for over a decade now. I've paid for it all out of pocket, and it can be about $75 a session, so it's not cheap. The other thing I found helped is ultrasound, and from my understanding, ultrasound is basically a milder form of the shock wave, right? It's still using ultrasonic pulses to go in and through thermogenic heat the tissue up, but also provide some stimulation for healing and a moderate way to break up scar tissue. I think one of the best ways to break up scar tissue is just through manual manipulation, massage. But I have found the ultrasound machine was really helpful. I find if I catch a tendonitis issue early, then ultrasound really helps. If I do 2 or 3 sessions over a couple of days, and I just bought my own. I actually got this one off of Amazon. Not the cheapest. They're about, I think I paid about $400 for this unit here. But when I was paying $70 for a 30-minute ultrasound session, this thing paid for itself in 5 or 6 sessions, and I've had this for about 3 years now, and it works great. I can just sit while I'm watching TV, turn it on. It comes with some basic instructions, but also my physiotherapist was kind enough to give me some basic instructions on how to set this unit, like the depth and the pulse rate. And there's not that much you can set on it, but I just find this has worked really well. And I mean, that speaks to just how much I've dealt with tendonitis throughout my life when I've gone to the trouble of buying my own ultrasound machine. But yeah, this is kind of all of the stuff. Still a variety of foam rollers. That's something I used when I had plantar fasciitis, because I could just roll my plantar on the floor on this thing. So, all the variety of things, the spike ball. So I've tried it all over the years. But again, if we're going to recap, things that have worked for me have been physical massage, rolling of some kind, icing. So those are the 2 things I'll do daily. If I've got an issue, I'll roll throughout the day and then ice throughout the day. The other thing I haven't mentioned is stretching. Stretching has been a huge part. It was a huge part in rehabbing my knees and a huge part in rehabbing my Achilles tendon. It's something I do every single day. I stretch multiple times a day. I stretch in the morning before any workout. If I feel tight at any point during the day, I'll just take 2-3 minutes and just get up and stretch for a little while. I have a calf board, like an angled calf board. So I did a lot of stretching work with my Achilles tendon when I had tendonitis. One of the keys is if the tendon tends to get, like especially with Achilles tendonitis, is if your calf is tight and it's pulling up on your Achilles tendon, that's going to cause more friction at your heel. So if you can loosen, everything you can loosen in that chain will help with the tendonitis, because it relieves a lot of the tension on the tendon and allows it to heal, but also reduces friction. So stretching all throughout the day, icing multiple times a day, massage of some kind, foam rolling, something like that. And then if it gets really bad, then I'll get into something like ultrasound therapy, shockwave therapy, something like that. But again, my disclaimer was this is all stuff that has worked really well for me. I'm not qualified to give advice professionally on this, but as somebody who has dealt with tendonitis for the better part of almost 30 years now, I would say these are the things that work the best for me. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of information, and if you're struggling with some tendonitis, go see a physiotherapist, see your doctor, and if your physiotherapist recommends some exercises for you, then you can come and see me. All right, hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you in another video.